Welcome to Web of Light. And I'm Dr. Kevin. And guess who we found hiding in the corner? You know,
I know the vagabond, I'm never here.
that's Angie. In case you don't recognize her,
know.
that's Angie D'Anjou. And we want to.
I'll be back for a while now.
Yeah, that's what she says. Well, you know what? Only time will tell. So, Angie, you went to the Thousand Islands, Niagara Falls,
Yes.
with a second honeymoon with the
That's
love of
right.
your life. How was it?
We had a fabulous time. Absolutely enjoyed the Thousand Islands. My favorite part was the boat ride.
The boat ride.
Yeah, Uncle Sam's.
Uncle Sam's boat ride.
Yeah.
So
That was an awesome little trip. It was like just going down the happy rivers and into the lake and all natural.
wow, I think that's great. So you're
You
rested
can tell
and
I'm
energized.
relaxed and I'm energized and I'm ready to go.
Yeah, well, there was a few shows ago that we had the thing that you were leaning against that was making you relax.
Oh, yes. And actually, tomorrow's my big day of starting that program because I decided that I would wait off until after I came back from vacation. But tomorrow I start my program where I'm going to be taking in seed products and see what comes up in about 30 days.
Yeah,
And
well,
how's your little project going?
well, 15 days into my 30-day cleanse fat burner challenge, I'm down 15 pounds. I didn't do my inches. I know that I slipped up between last week and this week, between scheduling and things like this, that I wasn't as good as I was the first week, because the first week I lost 10. So I was kind of disappointed that I only lost another 5.
okay.
But, you know, that's still more than a
Something
pound
more
a day.
than nothing. That's right. That's a good thing.
Absolutely. So I got 15 more days to go, and I think I'm going to set my goal at 40 pounds to see if I can drop 40 pounds. I think if I get motivated, I could do that. So
Slow is good, though.
slow is good. And I want to do, and I already have this, you know, one of the problems with losing weight, and, you know, we do these cycles, and the cycle, I know I've done cycles, up, down, up, down.
Yeah.
And this last cycle, I wasn't up as much as I've been. I wasn't up as long as I've been. I understood it. You know, I'm doing the journaling twice a day and drawing a card and doing these different things so that as the weight goes away, I'm also releasing the spiritual, emotional, and mental issues that were tied up in the weight. And so I'm really like, this is the last cycle. This is it. So I'm very happy about that, and it's going in the right direction. So
You're clearing out those chakras.
I'm clearing out everything. Ah. So, you know, so I want to do I'm going to do today's quote,
Yes, you are.
and I'm gonna struggle to not sing it because I'm taking lyrics from a song, and me singing a cappella is not always a pretty thing. Sometimes it's an okay thing. Sometimes it's not a bad thing, but but it can't be a guaranteed good thing.
I've been told never to help sing anything. So I'm no help to you.
So the quote comes to us from Carole King. It is the lyrics to a song. When you're down and troubled and you need some loving care and nothing is going right, close your eyes and think of me, and soon I will be there to brighten up even your darkest night. Just call out my name and you know wherever I am, I'll come running to see you again. Winter, spring, summer, or fall, all you have to do is call, and I'll be there. You got a friend. And of course the song goes on,
Yeah.
but that's the part I chose. And I chose it for a couple of reasons, which we'll get to shortly.
Okay.
But on my radio show 2 weeks ago, out of nowhere, I decided that my hot topic, which when I do on my radio show, it's either something that makes me warm and fuzzy or hot and bothered, was about friendship. And this is kind of about friendship again.
Yes, it is.
And, you know, one of the things I said on my show is people, I feel, a lot of times have lost the gratitude for really good friends. They get taken for granted. And a lot of people think they confuse real, true friendship with somebody who likes you on Facebook. And, you know, friendships are the lifeblood of a good life.
They
mean,
truly are.
Yeah. And I think that, you know, and some of this started because I got a little email about, oh, send your friends a card, you know, because it's Friendship Day. And I don't buy into all the Hallmark BS. But I stopped and thought, and I've got some really good friends, and I appreciate them, and I try to be there for them, and I appreciate the fact that they are there for me. And friendships don't have to be nurtured every day, but it's all about the level of connection and things. And I think that a lot of people have lost the art of true friendship. What are your thoughts?
Well, see, you just talked about the level of connection. You know, I actually have friends that I haven't seen maybe 5 years, maybe 6 years. But I know in a heartbeat, if I was to pick up the phone or if I was to go to their door immediately, and it goes both ways, we're there for each other. It's just like that song, you know, I'll be there. And the whole piece with me with friendship is that when you build a very strong friendship, you're always there in spirit. You're always there. Like, if you can't make it there, sometimes we feel like, oh my goodness, you know, I should be there for them. And no, you don't need to be there for them. You need to be intending goodness for them. And that's what the true friendship is about, bringing that intention back and forth between each other. No, you don't need all the Hallmark stuff. You don't need all that pizzazz. You need the actual companionship. You need the actual committing to feeling that intention, so that to the point where if you don't see somebody for 4 years and all of a sudden you're like, hey, you know what, I got to call them. Usually when you say, hey, you know what, I got to call them, that's when they most need you. That's what I have found.
Yeah, and sometimes friendship is about the catch up. It's just like, all I need to do is catch up with you. I don't need to reconnect with you because the connection never went away. I just need to catch up.
Right.
And so from that standpoint, the difference between an acquaintance who you're friendly with is there always seems to be a little bit of effort of reconnecting.
Yeah.
You have kind of, you know, sussing it out again and stuff like this. Where in a real friendship, it's just kind of like you pick up the thread wherever you dropped it and it keeps going.
Yeah, because you know already. You don't have to question.
Yeah.
And it's like you bring up Facebook. Okay, Facebook to me, don't get me wrong, I have some good acquaintances on Facebook. But at the same time, I feel it's almost like some of the times when people are coming in to look at you in Facebook or discuss things with you in Facebook, they're kind of, it's almost like, well, what's going on in their life?
Yep.
What's going on in this one's life? What's happening with, it's not really that true, I'm totally a friendship. It's more of like the curiosities of, these people's lives.
I really think that there is an increasing level of people who are simply voyeurs instead of livers. That just watch life on Facebook, they watch life in the movie theater, they watch life on TV. They're watching life, but they're not participating. Yeah. They're having faux relationships that isn't about who you really are, but who you can pretend to be. And that, and I find that disturbing sometimes because...
It's funny you say that because that makes me think of Meetup. There's a lot of Meetup groups that have a very substantial amount of people that come together and they gather. And Meetup was created to bring people together to gather. And what you find on Meetup is, I've had Meetup groups in the past where I've had anywhere from 100 to 300 members. And then we'd say, hey, let's meet here or there. And maybe 5 of them would show up, or maybe a dozen. And they're like, yep. Where are these people? How can you meet? How can you correspond with people just by seeing what they did?
Yep. Well, I know Jeff and I have had the same experience because we have Gathering in Spirit, and we have this drumming circle and we're up to like 95 members. But the most we've ever had a drumming circle was the first one, and it was like 20. And then it runs around 10, 12. And, when we've done a networking, soul to soul, face to face, just come and meet other people in the spiritual community and connect. And we had one person show up for it. And it's just like, why are you part of the group? So anyways, on that note, I'm going to introduce our guest. We'll bring her on, see what she thinks about friendship and other such things. But before we do that, will you be my friend?
Of course I'll be your friend.
Okay. So today we have somebody who I've known for many years now. She's been on my radio show 4 times. I'm thrilled that we get to have you here on Web of Light. Sheila Duncan is the president of Larkin Limited, the holding company for the global children's character Trouble the Dog. Trouble was initially drawn by Sheila's then 12-year-old niece Kendra after a member of the family, a number of family cancer losses in 2006. Sheila called that moment divinely inspired. Kendra wanted to help other kids going through tough times. Since then, Sheila has worked tirelessly to raise awareness of issues children and their families are facing in today's world. So now I'd like to bring on Sheila Duncan, Larkin Limited. I jumped from Sheila to Larkin. Sheila Duncan and Trouble. Sheila, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
I want to know a little bit about Trouble. And I don't know if we can get Trouble. Trouble's in the doghouse right now. Can we get, is the audience seeing Trouble in the doghouse? Okay. So tell us a little bit about Trouble and then what Trouble does. Because Trouble does some amazing things.
Thank you. I think, first of all, the reason you put Larkin in there is that the name of my holding company, it's named after my mother.
Ah.
You see, that was her maiden name. And she passed away of cancer when my niece was 12, and they were very close. She was my niece's nanny, her grandmother, very, very close buddies. She also lost her dad and our family dog Irish to cancer right in a very short period of time. So she was at my house one night, and there was a telethon on television all about children with cancer. And she was just doodling, and when she saw what was happening on TV, she looked up and she said, I have to help those kids. And bang, drew Trouble the dog. I mean, it was like, whoop. That's why I say it was one of those divinely inspired moments. So she and I worked, we came up with slogans like, when trouble comes, you're never alone. Where there's trouble, there's hope. Trouble says, be tough. And since that day, we've turned Trouble into a plush dog, which is now made here in the United States. We have 2 children's books, one of whom introduces a character named Hope as well. And Trouble's traveled the world helping kids who need a friend, as you talked about, who need almost like a 24/7 buddy, therapy dog, if you will.
Well, and you talk about kids need love, comfort, and most of all, hope.
Yes.
Which is why which is the new character. I love this. This
Isn't
character was not there last time I interviewed
No, she
you.
was not. She's cute, isn't she?
She's cute.
Thank you.
I'm gonna pull this, see if I screw up my mic. Probably I will. I don't know if you can focus in on this or not. Where there's trouble, there's hope. Isn't that great?
Yes.
I can't wait to see the plush. I take it there's going to be a plush version of Hope.
Ultimately, there will be.
Okay.
Yep.
So they talk about, but you talk about Trouble isn't simply a plush dog, but he's a proven coping mechanism for those facing difficulty.
He is.
And that kids can feel his energy. But I want you to share a story that you shared with me once about Trouble. And it wasn't about kids. It was about when you brought Trouble down to visit some some military people that had come home. Will you share that story with Angie and our listeners?
Awesome.
I was contacted by someone whose nephew had been severely injured in Afghanistan, along with a friend of mine whose dad had been at Normandy. She wanted to do something in honor of her dad, and we wanted to do something to help this soldier who was at Walter Reed Army Hospital. So we raised some funds, and we brought 200 troubled dogs. We didn't have the houses then, books, and we had a medallion at that time with trouble on the front, and it said, "When trouble comes, be tough." And with his trouble, there's hope was on the back. So we brought them down to these soldiers who were, it was a life-changing visit for me because they were so appreciative, and they just grabbed onto this dog. And I mean, some of them still sleep with this dog. I know that for a fact. So there's definitely an energy with trouble. People can feel it. It's soothing. And the soldiers, they were happy for themselves, but they were also happy because the soldiers that had children could bring children into their hospital rooms. I mean, these guys had severe injuries. And they could sit with trouble on their lap, and they could read to their kids or tell the kids that it was okay to whisper into trouble's ear. And that's what happens a lot, is that children, parents can hear their children whispering into trouble's ear. So,
That's very beautiful. And
thank you.
It's not only helping them, but it's also helping their entire family,
Exactly.
which is really, that's something to be very grateful, and you're very inspiring when you do something like that.
Thank you. We as Kevin knows too, we, after the incident in Newtown, my neighbor came across the street and he said, "Oh, we have to bring trouble to Newtown." So it's a long story, but we did. We brought a truckload of trouble down there, and we did an event at a place called Newtown Healing Arts. All of the children who were there had been affected by this tragedy in one way or another. So I had someone read the book, an actor read the book. I told the story of trouble, and these little kids, I mean, you could hear a pin drop in this place. And we gave each one of them, I think it was 200, I'm not sure, a dog, a book, and a house. And we set up the houses on tables so the kids could, paint the houses, do whatever they wanted to do. Independent of each other, and this will tell you a little bit of the magic of trouble, they were writing, "I love you" on the side of the houses. They can't see what the other ones are doing. They're all doing it independently. So I walked around the room a little bit, and I said, "Who are you writing that to?" "Trouble the dog." So their parents were also the ones who would say to me, "They won't talk to us, but they will talk to Trouble."
The dog, yeah.
So it's something very special going on with this pup. Bigger than me.
That's very
I-
spiritually, obviously there's a good spiritual flow with that.
Thank
I
you.
have to ask, you talked about medallions.
We had, I financed a lot of this mission myself, and so initially we had medallions made up, and this is actually a good story. So they're made of pewter, about this big. Trouble's image is on the front. It says, "Trouble says be tough," and when you flip it over, it says, "Where there's trouble, there's hope."
Yeah.
I actually need to have, we have them made in Albuquerque, and I need to have more of those made up, but right now, we're getting so many requests for dogs that actually, that's why I formed the Kennick Foundation, which is named for my niece Kendra
Uh-huh.
and my father Kenneth, who she's named after.
Okay.
Oh, nice.
So I gave a medallion way back, probably in 2007, to a firefighter from my hometown of Marblehead who had been severely injured. And we formed a friendship because it hangs to this day from his rearview mirror. So in that flyer, we have an event coming up, a motorcycle ride.
Oh, let me see if I can grab that.
And the little girl in the flyer is this firefighter's granddaughter, And what we're planning to do with this event is to donate trouble dogs to children who are going through really tough circumstances. You know, they're being removed from their homes,
Right.
or, you know, lost their home in a fire, or whatever happens to be. So we formed the Kennick Foundation as just a giving machine, because we've been so overwhelmed with requests. There are just so many kids out there that need help.
So
So when is this going on?
this is Trouble the Dog motorcycle ride, Shriners Auditorium in Wilmington, Mass on 9/11. Registration is at 10 a.m. Kickstands up at 11 a.m. All are welcome, no bikes required. And it's Trouble the Dog motorcycle ride, and it's the second annual one. I don't know if we can show this or whatever. And this is raising money. And it raises money actually, for the most part, to give the dogs to people in need.
The Kennick Foundation was formed to give trouble dogs at our cost. You know, we just keep these dogs going, because until I started this work, I had no idea how many children really needed a buddy of their own.
Yeah.
You know.
I mean, I'm assuming, like, you know, you started out with certain points, but I'm sure now you've expanded, and it's just, I think about what you're talking about, children who possibly were taken away from their parents would love, you know, it's like that's such a special piece to have that.
Well,
to have that friend.
We've donated through the Kennick Foundation to Catholic Charities and Shriners Children's Hospitals and all that. And what I never realized is, when a child is removed from their homes, oftentimes they're removed with nothing. You know, maybe there's a black trash bag with their pajamas in it or something. So my ultimate goal is to turn trouble into the next Snoopy, and be able to just keep Kennick as a giving machine and give these trouble dogs to these children who, I want them to have their own equalizer. You know, I want them to have their own piece of hope.
Yeah.
So
Very nice.
thank you.
But like I said, there's no boundaries to this.
Oh, no.
It's so
Oh,
beautiful.
thank you.
It's-
Yep.
So what is it going to take to get Trouble out of the doghouse?
I can get them out right now if you want me to.
So there's Trouble.
Yeah. He's got those googly eyes, like I said. Reminds me of Mr. Flops. Goofy but happy.
And you know, he's a series of circles.
I
His
see that.
nose, his head. You know, the drawing that my niece did, actually, it's perfect circles.
Yeah.
So,
And I like the idea that I can get him to wave.
oh, sure. His tail wags and everything.
Oh, yeah?
Sure.
Oh,
See?
it does.
It
Look
does,
at that.
Okay.
Just being with him gives you like that feeling of, like, you know, fool around, happiness.
That it's all going to be okay.
kind of brings it apart, yeah.
Thank you.
Well, and there is a whole series of messages that Trouble has.
Yes.
There is, you know, stay tough, but can you share some of the other messages? And you've definitely had some interesting rides with Trouble.
Oh,
But give us some of the other Trouble messages off the top of your head.
well, I think an important message is, you know, little children. I'll share something with you. Just recently, we, through a generous donation, we were able to bring 50 trouble dogs and books to a literacy program for children who, you know, could really use a buddy and a toy of their own. And one of the children said to me, she was like, she was so excited, and she said, she's 4 years old, like this big. She said, this makes me so happy, I could cry. And I guess the thing is that part of the mission is, when a child is in the hospital, or they're living in a motel room with their family, or, you know, whatever it happens to be, when the lights go out, Trouble's still there. And that's my goal, is that, you know, when trouble comes, You're never alone. That's a big thing. Where there's trouble, there's hope. Is to let kids know that they can have someone to talk to and hang on to, and know that it's going to be okay. You know that maybe that will open the door for them to talk to one of their parents or a teacher, or whatever it happens to be. So trouble's a great way to open communication, I think, and most importantly to give kids something to hang on to.
Well, you've said before that this generation of children is more stressed than any generation before them.
Yep.
Bullying, homelessness, family
Yep.
instability, substance abuse, and violent media. And,
Yep.
I mean, I see kids that are in anxiety at 4, 5, 6 years old, that of course they're medicating, but we won't get into that part of it. We'll save that soapbox for another day. But so, it does seem as though our children are on this constant mental, emotional onslaught of insecurity and lack of safety and, things like this.
And, I think that the reason I think that now's the time for trouble is because of everything you just said. And I feel that one of our goals is to put trouble at, have him be a TV series, not to frighten children, but to let them be able to learn about anxiety, learn about bullying in a non-judgmental way. That trouble can kind of lead them down the bumps in the road of life gently and with humor too. That they can look forward to coming home and hearing what trouble has to say. And we've got a television idea that's pretty cool. So, I think now's the time. I think people, when we first started to talk about Trouble, I think they felt that the name was like Trouble the dog. And now, because kids are totally tuned in to his name, his mission, his look. So I think the adults are catching up. Yeah. Kevin always was caught up, but I think a lot of other adults are catching up slowly but surely.
Well, it's like one of the things that have come to my mind when I'm sitting here with Trouble is I can recall when I was young, if I was like kind of down in the dumps or, things were, you kids, no matter what year, whatever time it was, kids always have some kind of anxiety at times.
Sure.
And at that time, I actually was blessed because I had this beautiful cat. And it was a true cat. Mm-hmm. But every time I'd come home, the cat would be there. And that would be he'd hear my whole day.
And that's exactly.
This is what this is making me think of, but there's so many that don't have the opportunity to have a pet that's that close, but this is a very good substitute because he just looks at you and it's like you open up to him.
And that's exactly what happens. You can't believe, too, there are a lot of senior citizens that have trouble, too, and
Yeah.
So he's in a lot of, we call him an angel in disguise.
So one of the questions I want to ask you, and I'm gonna be grabbing Trouble in a minute because I have a Trouble story.
Okay.
But one of the things is, have you sold or given away more Troubles at this point?
That's a good question. I think we've sold thousands and we've given thousands away. So, yeah, it's a mission.
And one of the things is, and this is one of the reasons why I had you back on my radio show so many times, that I wanted to have you on the TV show, is, yes, you want to make this a business. Yes, it would be nice if Trouble could come to the point where, there was ways to expand and get more of the message out, and that takes funding and takes money. And I remember very early on us talking about nonprofit before I think the foundation was created.
Probably.
Maybe
The foundation was created 2014.
Yeah, you and I talked about doing the nonprofit arm back in 2008 or 9 or something around there when we first did it. But one of the reasons that I respect you and so much of what you do is whether it's out of your own pocket or you can get some people to donate some money or come together. When there's trouble, there is Sheila in Trouble, headed there with the dogs,
It's
for the
true.
kids in Newtown, for the vets. I mean, the first time you ever told me that story about the vets, I cried because I remember you telling me the part of the story of you being nervous before you went in, and how are all of these tough, like Marine and SEALs and stuff like that, who, some had lost limbs and, all this stuff. And what were they going to do with you bringing in this stuffed animal? And there was one of the people that had lost a couple of limbs or whatever, just grabbed Trouble and started crying. I mean, it was the first time you told me that story on my radio show. I was crying.
Right.
That, that this powerful force, but part of the reason that Trouble is so powerful is because Trouble is imbibed with your heart, your
Thank you.
soul, your spirit. You run down and you're not like, you know what? If there are 50 Troubles that somebody needs, I'm going to be there with them. We'll figure out how to pay for them. We'll do this, whatever. But I think that the world needs to know that, you are a driving force and need to be recognized for the amount of good you're bringing into the world.
Thank you
Not
very
just
much.
trouble.
Thank you.
Because you are the friend
Thank you. But
that
you
walks
know,
with this dog.
I will say too, though, I have been connected to so many incredible people along the road, yourself included, and I thank you as well. People who, they see what goes on with this dog. I have a woman who helps me with PR, Melanie Fleming, superb. I mean, I couldn't pay for the help that she's given me. I have another woman, Carrie Schluter, who did that flyer also. These women are just top notch. A woman, Susan Byers, who does, keeps me straight on my books and everything. They will all be at this motorcycle ride, and they see what Trouble does. They see that how many kids he helps, and he's not only helped children who have huge difficulties. For example, there are children with autism. They won't make a move without him. I mean, he goes to camp, he goes to school, he goes to show and tell, but also children who maybe just have trouble going to sleep at night. So there's definitely, he's definitely destined for greatness, I think. So, but I appreciate your compliments.
Yes. Okay, I need to
Yes,
see
he
Trouble for a
is.
second. Come here. Come here, Trouble. Oh, Trouble. Okay. So, I don't know if I've ever mentioned on the TV show or not. I think I have, but back at late 2013, at the end of the year, I collapsed and had a heart virus. And by the time that they tracked everything down, I only had 12% of my heart working. And for whatever reason, I hadn't been out of the hospital very long, and I hadn't announced to the world that I had almost died. And you and I talked, and I don't know why. I think that I had scheduled you ahead of time for my radio show. I can't remember what it was, but this young woman over here, when I told her my story, guess what I got in the mail?
Oh, yeah.
She sent me a Trouble. Oh. And I had a dog a stuffed dog that my grandfather had given me when I was 4 years old in the hospital. And they didn't think I was going to make it. And my grandfather came in and had handed me this dog that I called Dawg, D-A-W-G. And I mean, the poor thing, I just unpacked it. I still have him 50 years later sitting up on my thing. But that dog had been everywhere and everything with me. And when Trouble came in the mail, and because that dog, after 50 years, a stuffed animal made 50 years ago, does not last well, and is not, and the fur was completely worn off from this. And Trouble slept with me every night. While I was getting better, while I was feeling better, he had an honored place. Just to look at him kind of made me smile and made me feel better. They'd talk to the child in me, and we all have a child in us. We all have a child in us, and that's why so many people, when they see something that happens to a child, they see a child, you know, going through trouble. Yeah, you heard me.
Yeah.
That we want to reach out, we want to protect them, we want to help them, we want to save them, we want to nurture them, we want to take care of them. I think it's part of the species.
Yeah.
You want to nurture and take care of your young, so within us, all of us, and all of you out there that have that child in you that needs to be talked to sometime. You don't have to be a child for trouble. And God knows you don't have to be a child to get in trouble.
No.
In fact, the bigger you are, the bigger the trouble seems to be.
Correct.
But I really, you know, was so appreciative, and Trouble was well used, and then ended up being in a movie that I wrote and got filmed. And Trouble the dog was in Mama Knows Best, right? And had closing credits and everything.
Which is terrific. So he's already in the movies.
He's a movie star. He's a movie star. But anyways, so what I wanted to tell that personal story about Trouble.
I appreciate it.
And that Trouble was there. And for those of you that are out there, and if you know a child, you know somebody, a child that's struggling, or a situation where a little extra love is needed, you want to check out, it's troublethedog.com, right? I know it will be at the bottom of the screen because we have a fabulous crew here that always takes care of that. We love our crew. We love our directors and all those people that help. So anyway, so that's my Trouble story. And I'm going to read the tag, and then kids love trouble. Once upon a time, childhood was simple. Today, it's tough to be a kid sometimes. Trouble the dog teaches children about resilience. He has an amazing energy kids can feel and helps them hope, believe, and dream. Trouble helps kids with their troubles, big or small. One hug and you'll see Trouble the dog. So what's coming up now? You've got the motorcycle ride. You've got the new book. So when are we going to see Hope in 3D?
Well, we already know what Hope's going to look like, and we've already picked out the material for Hope. So you know, this is the trouble, whatever you want to say. The trouble concept, as you said, is limitless, because we have other characters in the books that teach kids. For example, one is Spanish Luigi. He's little and he gets bullied a lot.
I remember Luigi.
Luigi, yep.
I remember Luigi as a character.
Yes, and Luigi actually happens to be a real dog who is little and, you know, is very tough. So there's Roxy, who's a golden retriever who's very self-absorbed. So it truly, she's always looking in puddles at herself and everything. So it truly is, it's limitless. The next thing, this ride coming up is the people who participate in this ride are fantastic. Shriners has been great, you know, they're just a wonderful, wonderful organization. And actually one of the gentlemen who was very helpful for the ride last year, one of the motorcycle men, just contacted me the other day. And he said that there was a little girl from a foreign country who was being treated at Shriners, who we've also donated to in Boston, Bangor, and Springfield. And he said, you know, Sheila, she can't speak English. She's terribly burned. Can we send her a Trouble? I said, of course we can. And she, through an interpreter, just recently wanted him to know that Trouble gives her great comfort and makes her smile. So they're using him at Shriners in Springfield. When a child, let's say, goes into the operating room, they go in with Trouble. They have to have a cast removed, they get a Trouble. So he's busy.
He's a
And
busy
so
dog.
am I, yep.
Absolutely.
Yep, it's all good.
So we're going to be winding up this segment in a couple of minutes. Where there's trouble, there's hope. So, do we have a release date on Hope yet or not?
The book is out.
The book is out.
The book is out. Hope the plush character will be a little bit down the road because, you know, in order to do that, between now and the holidays, we have Trouble plush dogs coming in for the motorcycle ride. We have Trouble the plush dogs coming in. Actually, we just received an order of 50 Trouble dogs, and this is kind of neat. A boy who's 12 years old heard about Trouble. He heard us on the radio, I think. And he was so, no one said anything to him. He picked it up himself. He was so impressed with everything that was happening, he chose to raise money for 50 Trouble dogs. 25 to go to Shriners, because his dad is a doctor there. 25 to go to the Waltham Fire Department, because a friend of his lost his home, and they were very kind to him. So we just got an order for him. So once probably the holidays are done, then I can start working on a little more Hope. They have to make sure her eyes are bright blue. Yep,
Blue eyes works for me.
works for me.
This is the blue-eyed
So,
stage.
There
Blue-eyed
you go.
stage today.
Exactly. So it's wonderful.
It certainly is wonderful. Again, on 9/11 in Wilmington, Mass, at the Shriners Auditorium, 10 o'clock. 11 o'clock is kick-up time for the Trouble the Dog motorcycle ride, which is a fundraiser event for the Kendrick Foundation. When people raise money for the Kendrick Foundation, they're actually raising money for these dogs to be able to be given to children in need.
We want to put them right in the fire trucks, cruisers, ambulances. We're going to have free coffee and donuts, and we're going to have lunch from Fuddruckers and also from a place called As Good As It Gets in Wilmington. So it's going to be a fun day. Great people, music, fun. It's going to be great.
So any other things on the horizon for Trouble that we can talk about before we close down?
We have some people who have contacted us, who are interested in the concept of Trouble. It has to be. This has been a very guided mission for me, So we're still searching for the right contact for Trouble the dog to have him just explode. He's exploding on his own, and other people have wanted to assist us, but we're still looking for. I'll know when the right person picks up the phone. I'm going to know it. So that's the next move for Trouble, I think, is to have his own TV show.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I want to thank you so much for coming. This is Sheila Duncan of the Larkin
Limited.
Larkin Limited, also the founder of the Kendrick Foundation, and Trouble the Dog. And maybe at some point you contact us after Hope's out, and maybe we'll have Hope on. What do you
I would
think?
love
Yes,
Yeah,
of
I think
course.
we should have Hope on.
She'll be a little smaller than Trouble, but
Yeah. So thank you very much, and I look forward to seeing you again. And we're gonna go into wrap up. But as always, you know I'm a big Trouble fan.
I know. And we're a big fan of yours, too. And yours now, too, Angie. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we've talked about friendship. We've talked about Trouble. We've talked about hope. What do you think?
I think it was an excellent idea that you brought our beautiful guest on.
Oh, well, I'm glad that you felt that way about it. And I noticed that you haven't let go of Trouble yet.
No,
She gonna have to arm wrestle you to get it back? Is that the story?
I don't know, maybe.
Trouble's, and I'll let you decide, but Trouble's staying right here. He's not going back to Marblehead. He's going to stay right here.
Hey, that means we're gonna have matching Troubles, because mine will be showing up in one of these boxes.
Well, honestly, I believe if I keep Trouble, then I'm going to find somebody to bring him to.
You know, that's what happens. Yeah, that's, well, like I told you about this gentleman that rides the motorcycle, this is the second trouble I've sent out. You know, these big, tough guys, they're all over helping the kids. It's
Oh,
just great.
yeah.
Oh, it's just,
Yeah,
they're
one
amazing.
of the questions that we never came up with, it just occurred to me because I've actually, I always start to think, you know, it just
Wheels are
starts-
turning.
Wheel goes all over the place, and you know, I am going to share this with some child,
Oh, absolutely.
but if I, as an individual person, like I'm watching this show and I know some child who is having some kind of conflict, how can I get a child? Can I get
We
a
send them
trouble?
out. Yep. If they go to our,
The
we-
website?
Yep, if they go to the website, what a lot of people will do, as a matter of fact, maybe, I don't know, a couple of months ago, I had a woman call me up. And she said, would you be willing, if I purchased 2 trouble dogs in 2 houses, would you be willing to bring them over to DCF in Salem, Department of Children and Families? I said, sure. And that's when I learned, I mean, staggering statistics, you know, so we can absolutely do that.
Oh, okay, I was just wondering.
Yep.
So they don't have to buy like a dozen or
Oh,
2
no,
dozen.
no.
They can get 1 or 2 or,
Yep.
that's good to know.
I hopped right in the
That's
car.
really good to know.
You hop right in the car.
Hop
Yep,
right in
of
the
course,
car.
of course she does.
Yeah, well, and that's why.
It's Sheila.
Right, exactly.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, and you've had it for a while now. I'm not going to say always, but as far back as I can remember in interviewing you, and I didn't think to mention it this time, so thanks for bringing it up, Angie, which is if you know a kid in trouble, you can, you know, a kid that's suffering or having issues or needs a little help, you can go to troublededog.com, you can order one, they'll send it to whoever.
Oh, yeah.
They'll say it's from you,
Yep.
right?
We write little notes. We've got little trouble note cards, and I do, I'll do like a handwritten note.
Oh, that's sweet.
Yep.
Yeah. So you can either choose to go on and do like this 12-year-old boy did and say, I want to order so many troubles and do this and do that with them. And
Imagine that.
yeah.
All by himself. He did
Yeah.
a flyer and everything. Better than I could do. I mean, it's just amazing.
Yep. Yep.
Kids they really get it,
Yeah.
you know?
Well,
Yep.
I'm sure there's some adults that will get it. Although
Mm-hmm.
some, like you said before, some of them don't have that. They get out of that child. They don't let their inner child play.
They're getting it more now, though.
But they're starting to get it more. So
Right. I actually, years ago, and this guy was wonderful, he was a toy guy. And in the beginning, he said, I don't want to have anything to do with a dog named Trouble. I said, oh, can I just have 10 minutes of your time? By the time I was done, he looked at me, he's looking at the drawing, he's looking at me, he said, I think you've really got something here. I said, yeah, thank you. So,
Yeah.
so we've been really fortunate.
yeah, because
So-
it's meant to be,
Oh,
and it comes from your heart. It's a true friendship piece.
it's true, but it also comes from, you know,
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, and I've said this to Kevin, it's like there's a huge foot in my back. I mean, I just have to keep going until he's in the arms of as many kids as
Yeah.
possible. You know, they deserve it.
Absolutely.
So,
So again, thank you for coming. Thank you for bringing trouble. When Hope is done, make sure you contact me.
I
and
will. Thank
we'll
you.
see about having you back on and updating our listeners with some more stories and more things. And
Thank you.
I think next time that you're on and we have Hope, and it won't be till spring or whatever, but I'm going to either ask you to, or I will, or Angie, you can if you want. But I think that we'll actually read a little bit of the book.
That would be nice.
Yeah.
yeah.
I think read a little bit of the book, because the stuff that I've seen you do so far is so inspiring and motivating and comforting to children. And again,
Thank
we all have an inner child that at times needs comfort.
It's the truth.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
We've sent trouble to a lot of adults. You know, people have requested that trouble go to an adult, and you know, to some big shots who have taken the time to send a handwritten note to me and say, you know, thank you for thinking of me. Maybe someone who was involved in a big disaster, let's say,
Right.
and thank you for, you know, that someone wouldn't think of the head guy, And you're right. They need a hug too.
Absolutely.
So-
We all need hugs.
Definitely.
Definitely.
So thank you.
Thank you for coming on. So Angie, what's coming up for you in the next, few weeks?
Few weeks.
Few shows, and one of these days I'm going to actually.
Or actually, I know you keep missing out on some of them, but September 17th we'll be back up in Hampton at the American Legion.
And I'm going to be there with you for that
Yeah.
one.
And then September 18th, the following day, we're going down to the Executive Court in Manchester, New Hampshire. That's going to be a nice big shindig. I believe you're scheduled to be there with us.
Yeah, I'm there.
Yeah.
I'm speaking.
And he's going to be speaking.
I'm going to be speaking, and I'm talking about creating your own spiritual path.
Yes. And we'll have, I believe, 6 more guest speakers all throughout the day. Close to 50 vendors and readers and all of that. Actually, I'm kind of getting really bubbly about this one on the 18th because I've had some people that are coming in that are bringing in a lot more holistic type venues.
Well,
And
it's a
so
warm
gonna-
up for
it's-
Earth Day.
Yes, it is. It is. So, come on down, join the fun. I actually have I'm actually having proceeds from this going to a very special place. Speaking of dogs, dogs and cats, there's a place down in Londonderry. It's the Humane. It's a pet center that does all of the shots and immunizations and also neutering, so that the dogs and cats are, kind of really get off on the right start. They help out the whole entire community. Dr. Kim is the one that does all the work out down there. And I've decided over the last couple of weeks that we're going to do a little fundraising for them so they can take care of some more animals.
Great, great.
Yeah.
So, well, that's good. And you can find me every other Wednesday up at Leaping Lizards in Portland, Maine. Every Thursday, you can find both Angie and I, me in the
right.
morning and afternoon, and her in the afternoon, evening, at Shaman's Dream Gifts in the Newington Mall.
Yeah, and
Newington, New Hampshire.
that's expanded.
And that's expanded. We had that grand opening that we've talked about on the show, and the store's like 3 times larger than it was. The store part, the whole thing is like 5 times larger because it's got speaking spaces and teaching spaces and all sorts of stuff it didn't have. So it's really expanded the light it's bringing out into the mall at the Fox Run Mall in New Hampshire. And so we do have an Earth Day Expo. We're starting to talk about it now. Earth Day,
yeah.
April 23rd, 24th.
22nd, 23rd.
22nd, 23rd, whatever Earth Day weekend is. It's that weekend. It's that weekend in April. Web of Light Expo. And you're going to be meeting lots of our speakers and other people offering services over the next couple of months. And we look forward to seeing you again next week. Namaste.